Every fire needs a spark, and in Flora, Indiana, there's no shortage of sparks, but none of them seem to light the path to answers. Crimes don't just happen out of nowhere, they're fueled by reasons. Sometimes as simple as money, sometimes as messy as grudges, addiction, or desperation. And in the world of arson, those motives echo through smoke. Sure, some people write passive-aggressive notes to their neighbors. Other people light the neighbor's shed on fire. And for the record, if your coping skills lean toward the felonious, it might be time to workshop some healthier options with your therapist. Arsonists aren't a one-size-fits-all group. Some set fires for profit, chasing insurance payouts, or clearing the way for a new business deal. Others light the match for revenge or out of twisted psychological compulsion. Sometimes fire is used as a tool to cover up another crime or to send a political message. From petty vandalism to terrorism, fire has always been a language people use when they feel powerless, angry, or greedy. There are better ways to express those feelings, though. Dramatic soliloquies, slam poetry, even interpretive dance. Your mileage may vary. In other words, the same spark that ignites a masterpiece can also burn down a house. And figuring out why someone chooses the match over the canvas is the heart of understanding arson. And in Flora, Indiana, it's been nearly a decade since 4 sisters died in a horrific house fire, a fire officially ruled arson. Theories about what happened are plentiful. Answers? Not so much. If this fire was arson, the obvious question is why? Why would someone set a blaze in the dead of night while a family slept? And if we can untangle the question of motive, maybe we can start to untangle the fire itself. How can a case ruled arson sit for almost 10 years with no suspects? Well, it hasn't. There are suspects, people tied to the tragedy through twisted webs of relationships and motivations. Some of those connections snap easily under scrutiny. Others are thicker, stronger, woven from threads that don't break so easily. So in today's episode, we continue our journey into the Flora Four, between rumors and reality, by digging into motive, the people surrounding this case, and the questions that still smolder nearly a decade later. And we're doing it right now on Crime to Burn. Welcome to Crime to Burn, where we explore the dark city landscape where true crime intersects with arson and criminal negligence. Join us as we sift through the ashes to bring you the story of what really happened. Welcome back to Crime to Burn. I'm April, a fire protection engineer, former firefighter, and the kind of person who thinks reading fire investigation depositions counts as a fun Friday night.
And I'm just one podcast award from being an award-winning podcaster.
We're so happy you're here, and we have huge news. If you are tired of ads interrupting our content, belly up to the sacred snack table and join the cult of Steve on our brand new Patreon. It's unhinged in the best way possible. 3 tiers to choose from, so don't be shy. Steve's already saved your seat. And once you take the multiple choice quiz, you'll be assigned your more spiritually relevant name. Take Rachel Holloway, host of Like Mother, Like Murder, and our very first Patreon member. She's already undergone this sacred naming ritual and is now known as Nebulark Dingleshroom, disorganized wrangler of unhinged outbursts. Honestly, that deserves its own business card. So join now, claim your new cult name and title, and receive enlightenment, chaos, and episodes free of annoying ad breaks. You can find the link at crimetoburn.com or right in the show notes this week. Not ready to financially commit? No worries. Crime to Burn will always be free on your favorite podcast platforms. Just know Steve may or may not be silently judging you. And if you still can't get enough, we've got a crossover episode dropping this week. We'll be joining the new podcast, David Don't Know, that's Dayvid, for an episode that mixes fire science with the paranormal. So go give David Don't Know a follow so you'll be notified when it drops. As always, we're trying to cover some court records without selling any internal organs. You can help us out with that for free. All you gotta do is leave us a 5-star rating wherever you're listening, and when you're on social media, cruise on over to our page, drop some likes and comments, and share a few things with your friends. It costs you nothing, but it helps us grow. Like a tumor. But don't worry, it's the good kind of tumor, the kind that whispers true crime stories in your ears and tells you you're pretty.
It's not a tumor.
You can find us on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and even YouTube. And don't forget, you can also don some Steve-approved garments by clicking the link in the show notes to head over to our spread shop. Get yourself some gear. It'll look amazing on you because let's be real, you're so pretty.
I feel pretty.
And that wraps up our obligatory announcements. Now back to fighting for justice for Kiana, Kiara, Cariel, and Keone, 4 sisters who lost their lives in a tragic house fire in Flora, Indiana in November of 2016. If you missed last week's episode, here's the quick version. In November 2016, a fire tore through a rental home in Flora, killing 4 young girls. The fire was officially ruled arson, but from day one the investigation was tangled up in conflicts of interest that would make your head spin. The fire investigator was the fire chief's father. The fire chief reported to the town council president, and the town council president, he just happened to co-own the very house that burned. It's less small-town mystery and more small-town nesting doll of conflicts of interest. Every layer you open just reveals another one. And then there's Dennis Randall. He was the fire investigator. Now, he managed to burn some bridges and his own career with how he handled this case. At first, he told the press the cause was undetermined. That was technically true, but it left the public thinking investigators were shrugging it off and walking away. Then, before the evidence was all in, he issued another press release calling it arson, a statement that fire investigators hired by the insurance companies would quickly refute. But that's a whole different spiderweb we'll be untangling later. But here's the kicker. Because of his loose handling of the media and throwing out facts that couldn't yet be proven, Randall wasn't just pulled off this case, he was removed from the fire investigator's office entirely. Not long after, his son resigned as fire chief, and the county prosecutor also stepped down, all within months of each other. Suspicious timing? Yeah, it definitely looks that way. One bad press release and suddenly everyone's updating their resumes. Sometimes sparks don't just start fires, they burn down careers. Investigators did eventually conclude that the fire was arson, but not before cleaning up some of old Dennis's mess. Randall told the press that accelerant was found all over the house. That made for a flashy headline. But the official report quietly walked it back, saying accelerant was only found in one area. Now that's a pretty big downgrade from this whole place was soaked in gasoline to, well, we found a little something over here. And here's where it gets interesting. I've since gotten my grubby little paws on depositions that don't just challenge Dennis Randall's misguided conclusions, they challenge the official investigation itself. The kind of documents that make you wonder if the story we've been told for nearly a decade is the whole truth, or just the convenient version. But for now, let's play along and assume this fire was really arson. Later, we'll pull apart the actual evidence, but first we need to look at how police proceeded once they had arson stamped on the file. And spoiler alert, it wasn't pretty. And just a reminder, as we go through the possible motives and the people connected to this case, all of it is alleged. No one is guilty until proven guilty in a court of law, no matter how compelling the story sounds. Still, sometimes the smoke around a story is hard to ignore. To begin with, the police wanted to know who in Gaylin Rose's life might have wanted to harm her or her children. And as any true crime buff knows, investigators usually start with the people closest to the victims, because statistically, they're often the ones who hold the most motive. It's not glamorous detective work, it's just the numbers. Now, all 4 of Gaylin's daughters had different last names, which implies they may have had different fathers. But here's the thing. The fathers of the girls only really show up in their obituaries. Beyond that, they vanish from the public record. None of them were living in Flora at the time of the fire, and as far as I can tell, none have ever been suspected of involvement. So I think we can leave that theory behind. What we do know is that less than a month before the fire, a man in Texas filed for divorce from Gaylin. On paper, that sounds exactly like the kind of thread investigators would want to tug on. But here's the problem. In all the publicly available documents I've dug through, there's just no details about him there. There's no smoking gun, no ominous timeline, no hint of anything beyond the usual heartache and paperwork of a divorce. Could there have been a strain that tipped this over into something darker? Maybe. But right now there's nothing solid that suggests a former partner decided to lash out in the most horrific way possible. All we really have are some online threads, people claiming to be close to Gaylin or to know about the marriage, who say that these two had married young, split up, and never actually filed for divorce until the man wanted to remarry. By their account, the split was amicable at the time of the fire. So could that have been a motive? Sure. Does it look likely? Not at all. I think we can lay this one to rest, but in covering all the usual bases, it deserved mention. What we do know is that Gaylin was in a sexual relationship with Colten, a man she'd met while working at the gas station in Flora. Colten told police the relationship wasn't serious, but definitely sexual. In his words, they were, quote, shooting for a relationship, unquote, and had been involved for about a month to a month and a half. Their romance, though, wasn't exactly a fairy tale. It was more like a modern-day Shakespearean drama. You know the story, one partner refuses to use their phone unless they've got Wi-Fi because of roaming charges being brutal, and the other partner flips out when texts don't come back fast enough. Romeo and Juliet, but with bad cell service.
Classic.
Colten said about 2 weeks before the fire, the two had had a falling out over that exact issue. And by his account, the relationship was already over. But when police interviewed him after the fire, they weren't entirely convinced by his story. According to Colten, he was asleep at his mom's house the night of the fire. The next morning, he got up early to head to work. He had to be at work by 6 a.m. And he said he'd heard on the news that there was a fire in the 100 block of Columbia Street. Concerned, he asked his mom to drive past the house on their way to work. But by then, the road was clogged with fire trucks and police cars. He said they rerouted, but at one point he could see the home from the vehicle and did see smoke. From what he could see, it looked like the fire was on the upper level. And honestly, that tracks. The house was balloon frame construction. Once the fire gets into the walls, it shoots straight up, so smoke staining would appear worse upstairs even if the fire had started on the lower level. Colten said he then texted Gaylin between 4:30 and 5 a.m. after driving past to ask if everything was okay, and she never replied. He sent another message later in the day but heard nothing back. Police interviewed him on December 8th, about 2 weeks after the fire, and he told them he didn't know Gaylin had been hurt until later that day, though he remembered talking to her dad afterward but didn't get any details. Investigators pressed him about the route that he took that morning, noting that the path around the house had been impassable due to all the emergency vehicles. They also asked him about drug paraphernalia found in the house. Colten denied it was his and said he'd never used drugs with Gaylin. But when officers mentioned DNA testing on the pipes they found, they noted that he became visibly nervous, though he continued to deny involvement. One investigator even wrote in the report that when they shook his hand at the end of the interview, his palms were noticeably sweaty despite his calm demeanor. And now we enter rumor territory. Online chatter claims that Colten had a swastika tattoo, extremist views, and a criminal history. None of that shows up in the official reports. In fact, Colten wasn't only dating a black woman, but some of his known associates were black. So that rumor goes straight into the shaky and unconfirmed folder. Now, it's true that some of Colten's associates do have more concerning criminal histories, but that doesn't mean he was involved. When police interviewed him, the only criminal past Colten specifically mentioned was alcohol-related, possibly a DUI, which he said is why he doesn't drive. And when I pulled the court records for his name, I came up empty. No convictions, no paper trail. But there is one more wrinkle worth noting. In her statement to police, Jennifer Dean, we're going to talk about her more in a minute, said there were rumors that Colten's own mother didn't approve of him dating Gaylin. Now, that's not evidence of anything criminal. Parents disapproving of relationships is practically a small-town pastime. But if we're looking at every possible avenue of motive, it bears mentioning since it does appear in the police report. But I don't think mama drama led to this fire. Honestly, half of small-town romances end because somebody's mama didn't like somebody else. The other half ends over bad cell service, probably. So Colten was white and was alleged to have a swastika tattoo and be connected to an extremist group. But I have found no official documents that confirm that. And I have found nothing, I can't find any connection online with pictures and stuff because when I do a search for him, his last name is Creasy, I can't find anything. Nothing. I would have thought that if people online are talking about Colten, and there's people online that say that they know him or they've seen him.
There's people online that say they've seen Bigfoot.
Right. That they would have been able to produce a photo of this alleged tattoo. I have not been able to find.
Well, do we really want to see it? Where was it?
I don't know. That's located? The thing. They haven't even told me where it's located.
What if it's on his butt or something?
Ew.
Now you want to see it?
No.
You got to ask questions before you just dive in to show me your tattoo.
No. Another rumor floating online is that police believed Colten's text to Gaylin came in before any news coverage about the fire had aired, suggesting he somehow knew about it earlier than he could have known. But Colten himself told investigators that he texted Gaylin between 4:30 and 5 a.m. on his way to work, which is about an hour after the fire had already been reported. Based on that timeline that we can verify, the theory just doesn't seem to hold water, at least not with the information that's publicly available right now. It's also worth noting that Colten never specified whether he heard about the fire on the TV or on the radio, and the interview notes don't show that investigators followed up to confirm when the first public reports actually went out that morning. So while his story raised some eyebrows, there's nothing in the record that pins him with knowledge that he shouldn't have had. Another person questioned by police after the fire was a friend of Gaylin's named Jennifer Dean. Now Jennifer's a complicated character. She's collected last names like Pokemon cards. Depending on the paperwork, you'll see her as Jennifer Barnes, Jennifer Dean, or Jennifer Miller. Some people just get married a lot, no judgment. But with Jennifer, there are a few details that'll raise your eyebrows. She was alleged to be one of Gaylin's best friends, but when pressed, Gaylin herself downplayed that, saying she didn't actually know Jennifer all that well. Still, Jennifer was at Gaylin's home the night of the fire, visiting along with her boyfriend, or friend, Corey Dean, until about 10 or 11 p.m. So that's just 4 to 5 hours before the fire started. Jennifer told police that she and Corey left to get something to eat, with tentative plans to return later since Gaylin didn't have to work the next day. Now here's where it starts to feel like a daytime soap. Jennifer was also a known associate of Colten Creasy. How? Well, before Gaylin dated Colten, Jennifer did, but their romance didn't collapse for any of the usual reasons. It ended when they discovered they were related. Small town problems, I guess. It's the kind of revelation that makes Thanksgiving dinner real awkward, real fast. Turns out they weren't star-crossed lovers, just cross-referenced on the same family tree.
It's like a wreath. Family wreath.
I didn't dig too deep into the family tree, but yes, apparently they're related. And the soap opera doesn't...
But it wasn't like pass your sister the potatoes. I mean...
I don't think it was that close, no.
Yeah, good.
At least I hope not. God, I hope not. And the soap opera didn't stop there. After the fire, Jennifer eventually married Corey Dean. But at the time of her police interview, she told investigators they were just best friends. Adorbs. Except not so adorbs, because Jennifer and Corey later divorced, and Corey went on to marry Jennifer's daughter, his former stepdaughter. That is cringe. But there's more. Jennifer also has a very long criminal record. We're talking forgery, counterfeiting, receiving stolen property, theft, and most recently, murder. She's currently serving 60 years for that charge. One of her alleged co-conspirators in that case is a girl named Cheyenne Brooks Brown, who reportedly considered Jennifer some kind of a mother figure, but I had trouble figuring out how. I suspect maybe Cheyenne is the child of somebody that Jennifer had a relationship with, and at some point Jennifer served as a mother figure in her life, but that's speculation on my part. But according to Cheyenne, and in court documents from her trial, Jennifer wasn't as much a mother figure as she was trafficking Cheyenne Brooks Brown. And sprinkled in among Jennifer's greatest hits are, of course, drug charges. Just say no, kids. Or at least say no thanks. I don't want my life to read like a rejected script for Days of Our Lives, the felony years. So was Jennifer directly involved in the Flora fire? There's no solid evidence tying her to it. But when you line up her timeline, her connections, her criminal resume, it's no wonder her name keeps surfacing in interviews. And with a timeline like that, it's no wonder Gaylin may have wanted to distance herself from Jennifer a bit when investigators started asking questions. In a small rural town with a racially tense history, sometimes victims who don't meet that ideal demographic can feel like their cases get pushed to the back burner and don't matter as much. It's not fair, but it happens. It's possible that Jennifer was overstating their friendship. It's possible that Gaylin was understating it. A lot is possible, but very little of it is confirmable through any sort of vetted sources. Now, Jennifer being a convicted murderer and alleged human trafficker today doesn't necessarily mean that she was back then, but character does matter, and there's still controversy about what exactly Jennifer was into at the time. Was it just weed, or was she dabbling in chemicals that meth you up a little more? According to police records, Gaylin admitted to smoking pot, and Jennifer admitted the same, and Colten Creasy confirmed it. Weed was definitely part of the picture at Gaylin's house. Police even asked Colten about pipes, but here's the thing. In all the official documents I've seen, meth never comes up, so we don't know that Jennifer was involved in meth back then, or if she ever did it with Gaylin or at Gaylin's house. But that hasn't stopped Jennifer's colorful history from fueling speculation. Online forums are full of people connecting her and Corey's circle of friends to harder drugs, like I said, possibly meth, and suggesting that the fire might tie back to that seedy underbelly. And while I'd love to dismiss it all as small-town gossip, it is complicated, because there really are concerning connections, not just between Jennifer and Corey's associates, but in the darker corners of the whole town itself. Now, could chasing that rabbit hole lead somewhere? Sure. It could also take us years to crawl back out of. So for now, let's leave it here. Some of Gaylin's connections did have ties to drugs, and whether those ties mattered back in 2016 remains to be seen, because the official records don't put meth anywhere near this case. Yet. And here's the most frustrating part. We have to assume that in the many interviews police had with Gaylin, that they asked these hard questions about all of these connections. They probably asked about debts, grudges, dangerous information she might have known. But none of Gaylin's actual statements to police are available to the public, which means on some of the most important details of this investigation, we're just left in the dark right now. So let's chase the theory that this fire was connected to some criminal element. What do we actually have to support that idea? We know that Dennis Randall determined this fire was arson, a conclusion we're going to tear apart in detail later. But we also have a few pieces of information that reportedly came from Gaylin herself. Now, first, a reminder from last week. The house layout matters here. From the kitchen, there was a door into a mudroom, and from that mudroom, you could reach a back exterior door, or you could access the garage and the basement. Other podcasts have reported that Gaylin told her landlord that those rear door locks had been giving her trouble, and the landlord later claimed that they'd been fixed, allegedly. On the night of the fire, Gaylin said she woke up earlier in the night and thought she heard one of her daughters in the kitchen getting a glass of water. Nothing seemed out of place, so she went back to sleep without checking. But later, when she woke up to find the house in flames and tried to get to the stairs to get to her children, she did notice something chilling. She said she saw that the door to the mudroom, the one that led to the back exit of the house, was standing wide open, and she had remembered closing and locking it. She also told investigators she thought she saw flames, or at least the reflection of flames, near the kitchen, suggesting the fire may have started in that back portion of the house, somewhere between the kitchen and the mudroom. But here's the complication. When the neighbor who first tried to rescue the girls went into the house, he reported only seeing flames in the dining room, on the table, and on the floor. Now, maybe by that point, smoke had already spread so thick that the neighbor just couldn't see the area that Gaylin was talking about. Or maybe Gaylin's memory, formed in the moment of absolute panic, wasn't exact. Either way, these conflicting accounts muddy the waters of where the fire actually started. Could the noise Gaylin thought she heard, that was her daughter getting water, actually have been an intruder? Sure, it's possible. But we don't have solid evidence of that. And we'll never know if one of the girls truly did go downstairs that night, or if Gaylin was hearing something or someone else entirely. According to the investigator's report filed during the civil trial, Dennis Randall determined the point of origin was that back porch area. The problem is, it's never clear if he meant the mudroom inside the house or some porch structure outside the rear door. And that kind of ambiguity matters a lot, because it completely changes how you picture the fire starting. Was this something sparked inside the home, or was it sparked from outside where someone could slip in and out easier unseen? And let's not forget about those doors. They did not have deadbolts. They had basic thumb latch locks, the kind that you can pop with very little effort if you're determined. By the way, when they were deposing the landlord about the thumb latch locks, it was driving me crazy because he kept saying thump latch.
Get a thwack it in place.
I was like, for somebody that owns a hardware store, he sure did come off as a complete idiot in depositions about anything having to do with home repair. Or even what products were called. If I had to judge his level of ability to own a hardware store and rental units based on his deposition alone, I would say he was way out of his league, past where his common sense could take him.
Well, not every fried chicken franchise is...
But you know the difference between a wing and a thigh if you have a fried chicken franchise. This guy struggled to think of simple names for pieces of hardware, like parts of a door.
Are you suggesting that he was just masquerading as a hardware store owner and really he had an alter ego like Batman?
Nope, that's not what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting that he either was playing dumb through most of the deposition, or he's really, really an idiot. And since he was the town council president, both of those are concerning.
And also possible.
So is it possible that someone entered the home after everyone was asleep and set that fire? Based on the evidence we have, yes, absolutely, but we can't prove it. What we don't have is a clear motive, just hints, whispers, loose threads pointing toward debts, grudges, or dangerous associations, enough to raise suspicion, but not enough to weave into a full picture. So let's step back and recap the theories on motive so far. There's the possibility of drug activity pulling Gaylin or her associates into dangerous territory. Then there's the theory that this fire was racially motivated, an attack meant to target her family. And then there's the romantic angle. Colten himself admitted he and Gaylin weren't as involved by the time of the fire as they had been, and we don't know if other romantic rivals may have been circling. So let's dig into the racial motive theory a little more, because it's one that keeps coming up in online forums and community conversations, and one that includes accusations that Colten himself was somehow involved. Flora, like a lot of small Midwestern towns, has a complicated history when it comes to race. Carroll County in particular has been linked in the past to white supremacist groups. There are long-standing rumors of activity by the followers of Odin, a racist white supremacist group with a nasty history of violence and intimidation. And some locals say Flora has long had members or sympathizers living quietly in town. Now, to be absolutely clear, there's no official police evidence tying any white supremacist groups directly to the Flora fire. None. But when you combine the town's history, the family's identity as black victims in a mostly white community, and the whispers about extremist activity, you can see why the idea of a racially motivated attack sticks in people's minds. Now, for many in Flora, even raising that possibility is offensive, and I understand that. Nobody wants their hometown branded with the stain of hate groups, but ignoring history doesn't erase it either. And the reality is that in places with documented white supremacist presence, racially motivated violence is never completely off the table. So was this fire set as a hate crime? We don't have the evidence to say that, but the environment around Flora makes it a theory that can't be completely dismissed. It's one more thread in an already tangled web. In short, drugs, race, or romance, each theory has threads you can pull, but none of them, at least right now, weave into a neat little bow that can explain it all. But not all arsonists have ties to their victims. Some motives are personal: revenge, jealousy, financial gain. But then there's the other kind of arsonist, the one who lights fires for reasons that have nothing to do with the people who get hurt. Their motives can be the desire to feel powerful, the thrill of excitement, and in some cases, arousal. Yeah, that's a thing. And no, I don't want to think too long or too hard about it.
What, you've never seen a sexy flame and been like, hey, baby, shake it?
I just realized I said I don't want to think too long or too hard about it, and that was an unintentional pun. My advice, light a candle if you want to set the mood. Don't torch the garage. And that brings us to another possibility. If this fire was arson, we can't rule out the idea that the target was chosen at random. It's tempting to toss that theory out the window as implausible, but before you do, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Because here's the thing. Flora has a fire problem, and not a small one. A staggering, eyebrow-raising, what the hell is going on kind of fire problem. Between 2016 and 2022, at least 6 fatal house fires ripped through this one small corner of Indiana, killing 19 people, 16 of them children. 5 of those fires were officially ruled undetermined. Only the Flora fire was labeled arson. Nationally, most fatal house fires are traced to everyday accidents: smoking in bed, an unattended stove or candle, or a space heater left too close to the couch.
Short-circuiting vibrators.
I don't know about those, but okay. Those are tragic, but they're explainable. But it is exceptionally rare for entire families to die together in a fire, and it's even rarer for investigators to walk away from those tragedies without being able to officially name a cause. Now, I say that. Roughly 50% of fires are undetermined, but still, that's a lot of people that have died in house fires, and when compared statistically to national averages, it's shockingly high that these fires are killing entire families. So for one little region to see cluster after cluster of multi-victim fires, most stamped with the bureaucratic shrug of undetermined, that's not normal, that's not unlucky, that's an outlier. And in cases like this, outliers are where you find questions nobody wants asked out loud. So the question becomes, are we looking at a tragic streak of bad luck, a pattern of investigative failure, or something darker that no one's been willing to say out loud? Well, I'll say it. Is Indiana the home of a serial arsonist? I haven't seen any hard evidence that directly supports this claim, unless you count the multiple times Fire Chief Adam Randall's cousin and fire investigator Dennis Randall's nephew, Michael Randall, has been charged with arson. So where's Michael Randall these days? According to the Indiana Department of Corrections, he's been out of prison since the late 90s. But let's rewind, because his history is wild. Back in the 90s, Michael was arrested for arson and attempted murder after allegedly setting fire to his grandparents' home while they slept inside. And who put the cuffs on him? His own uncle, Dennis Randall. The same Dennis Randall who would later lead the Flora fire investigation. Talk about keeping it all in the family. Thanksgiving must have been real awkward. And that wasn't his only alleged blaze. Court records and news reports show Michael was also charged in connection with setting fire to his uncle John Randall's trailer. Now that case ended in a mistrial when a witness slipped up and mentioned other unsolved fires in Carroll County. Whoops. And if that's not enough, he was even suspected in the burning of the Camden fire station. Nothing like torching the very people who were supposed to put fires out.
So, okay, mistrial because someone mentioned something about other unsolved fires?
So there's other fires that he was suspected of potentially being involved in. And the court ruled that because those fires had never been tied to him, they couldn't bring them up in his criminal trial. It was inadmissible. But one of the witnesses accidentally blurted it out or mentioned it on the stand. And so since they introduced evidence that could taint the jury to think that he was guilty that had been ruled inadmissible already, they had to declare a mistrial.
And then that's it? It's just over?
I don't know if they ever maybe had a plea deal after that. I couldn't find any record of a second trial, but this happened back in the 90s, so sometimes records for those aren't really easy to find. But I find it fascinating that the fire investigator and the fire chief's cousin is an arsonist, and he's suspected of multiple fires. He's been out of prison since the 90s, and Flora still seems to have a fire problem.
Do you know who that witness was?
No, it just said a witness.
Because it's somebody involved with the story, right? Whoever that witness is.
It could have even been Dennis Randall, for all we know. He's the one that arrested him for the fire at his grandparents' house.
Makes you wonder if the witness could screw something like that up on purpose.
Now that's a theory I hadn't thought about. So I'm not saying that Indiana has a serial arsonist lurking in the shadows. But when you step back and see multiple fires, multiple family ties, and multiple investigations where the Randalls keep popping up, the optics aren't great. Now, none of this means Michael Randall should be suspected of the Flora fire. What it does mean is that there are factors in this county that go way beyond mildly concerning. I'd like to think investigators at least gave him a second look, but honestly, with the fire statistics in this area, I doubt Michael is the only firebug, if he is one. In fact, there's speculation that others may be involved in some of those unsolved fires, and some of those names connect right back to some of the people we've already talked about in this episode. But let me stress, that's just speculation. Still, it's a deep rabbit hole, and if you want to dive in, I'll drop a link in the show notes to a Reddit board that will keep you busy for weeks. Just remember, speculation isn't evidence no matter how convincing it may seem. And don't blame me when you resurface 3 days later surrounded by empty coffee cups and a half-eaten Hot Pocket and a brand new mistrust of small-town fire marshals. So far we've covered the romance and the family drama theory. And honestly, there just isn't much there to build on. A breakup, some bad texting habits, maybe a jealous rival or two, but nothing that screams 4 counts of homicide by fire. We've looked at the racial motive and the allegations that this was a racially motivated attack. Many in Flora find that idea offensive, and it is. But Flora also has a dark history and a population of alleged followers of Odin, a white supremacist group. There's no official police evidence or witness statements tying them to this fire. Still, if you're the type who enjoys losing sleep at 3 a.m. and muttering what if into your coffee the next morning, there's a whole Reddit thread waiting for you. Then there's the criminal underbelly theory. Drugs, debts, bad company. Could it explain what happened? Maybe, but let's be honest, there's limited information to support any of those theories. But here's the thing, when it comes to arson, you can't talk motive without talking money. Financial gain is one of the oldest sparks in the book. And in Flora's case, the money trail will make your jaw drop. This isn't just eyebrow raising, this is eyebrow launching. In January of 2016, Josh Ayres, president of the Flora Town Council, was gifted the house he used to live in back in the 90s as a tenant. The property had been a rental owned by his dad, who transferred it over to Josh. Josh then tucked the house neatly under his LLC birch tree. Now, even though the home was gifted to him free and clear, it's reported that Josh, or possibly Birch Tree, secured a loan against the property. And that part isn't unusual. Landlords do it all the time. Use the equity in the property to finance improvements, maintenance, and even upgrades. It's totally normal. But what came next? Not normal. And if you're not sitting down yet, now's the time. Birch Tree LLC, owned by Josh Ayres and his buddy Troy Helderman, took out insurance on the property just months before the fire. And not just a little coverage. No, they went big. According to depositions in the civil trial, the policy included $250,000 for the dwelling, $100,000 for contents, and another $15,000 for loss of rental income. That's $365,000 in coverage on a single rental property. And that's not all. They also had a $1 million umbrella policy through Westfield Insurance. Now, the umbrella covered all the properties, not just the Flora house. But it meant that in the event of a catastrophic loss, the total coverage wasn't just $365,000, it could potentially go up to $1.3 million. And listen, to be fair, it's always smart to cover your assets. Pun very much intended. But when your property goes up in flames in an alleged arson just months after you take out that level of coverage, that doesn't just raise eyebrows, that sends eyebrows rocketing into low orbit. And those eyebrows, they're about to shoot clean off your face. Because when Birch Tree secured the loan against the house, the bank required an appraisal. And you'd think with insurance coverage like that, we'd be looking at one hell of a duplex in rural Indiana, granite countertops, walk-in closets, maybe even a man cave. But the bank's valuation was just $45,000. $45,000 for the entire property. Meaning this property was overinsured by more than 800%. And that's before you even tack on the $1 million umbrella policy.
And I'm glad I sewed my eyebrows to my face today.
Now I'll give you a minute to go find your eyebrows and maybe a calculator, because that's the kind of math that doesn't just look odd, it starts to look like motive. And here's the kicker. It wasn't Birch Tree's first time or even their second time cashing in on an insurance policy. They'd already had claims on other rentals before the Flora property. Storm damage, water damage, at least 3 prior claims in total. Birch Tree wasn't exactly new to the claims process. In fact, during the civil trial depositions, the insurer's lawyer got so bold they asked Josh point blank whether Birch Tree was basically insurance dependent, like it was less a rental company and more a side hustle and cashing checks from disasters. That's the kind of question you only hear when the insurance company thinks they smell smoke, and not just the literal kind. And if you thought we were done clutching our pearls, you better put your necklace back on, because here's another thing. Josh and Troy didn't just own Birch Tree, they also co-owned an HVAC company called Climatech. And that company, yep, it also had insurance claims. In Troy's deposition, the insurance companies brought up a fire at a garage where Climatech kept its equipment. Now there's no detail in the record about how big that payout was, but the very fact that the lawyers brought it up shows they were building a narrative, outlining a pattern of losses that just keeps circling back to Ayres and Helderman. And like they say, when there's smoke, there's fire, and when there's fire, well, you'd better start checking for financial motives. Now, am I suggesting that Troy or Josh were directly involved in setting the Flora house on fire? No, I'm not, and I'll explain why later. But here's the thing. Some people are alleging that exactly. One citizen was so concerned about what she'd heard that she went straight to the Flora police on November 30th, just a week and a half after the fire. She told officers her son had a conversation with Troy Helderman. According to her, Troy admitted to her son that he had stuffed newspapers inside electrical receptacles in the past in order to start fires to collect insurance money. Now let's pump the brakes. While this statement is in the official police report, it's all hearsay, not admissible in court. The tipster heard it from her son, who allegedly heard it from Troy. If anyone could testify to it, it would have to be her son. And from the notes we have, it's not even clear that the police ever followed up with him.
Is stuffing newspaper into a reset box really gonna do anything? Honestly, there'd have to be already a short, and
That was my question.
What would be? I don't know. It just sounds like some kind of urban legendy. Someone played telephone with some information, or I don't know.
The fact that they have her statement in the police report, but they don't have any statement from her actual son, they didn't go question him or talk to him or ask him to come in, that
It sounds like
bothers
someone
me.
that like would sound scary to somebody who didn't understand how electric reset worked, right?
Right. That's why I said let's pump the brakes.
Yeah.
If anyone could testify, it would have been her son. And from the notes we have, it's not even clear that the police ever followed up with him. The report only shows that the information was relayed to, wait for it, investigator Dennis Randall at the fire investigator's office. The same Dennis Randall who was later fired, allegedly, for his mishandling of this very case. So, did this lead go anywhere? We honestly don't know. Maybe it was followed up on, maybe it wasn't. What we do know is that it's sitting in the official record like so many other loose threads in this investigation, just dangling there, unanswered like a match waiting to be struck. So here we are, insurance policies stacked sky high, rumors about fire tricks, a police report that drops allegations but never seems to follow them up, loose threads everywhere, and every single one of them feels like it could unravel the whole case. But before we get carried away with speculation, we need to circle back to the foundation of this entire tragedy, the official determination that this fire was arson. Was it really? Or did investigators jump to a conclusion that fit the narrative more than it fit the evidence? Next week, we're pulling that thread. And if what I've uncovered in the deposition holds up, it could unravel everything we thought we knew about the Flora fire. Because sometimes the most dangerous spark isn't the one that starts the blaze, it's the one that blinds people to the truth. You don't want to miss next week's episode, because the bombshells I'm bringing are the biggest in this case. I've read the depositions of 3 separate fire investigators, and as a fire expert, I'm going to tell you what I think, and let me warn you, it's going to drop jaws, ruffle feathers, and make people question everything they thought they knew about this case. But my goal isn't to be popular, my goal is to fight for justice. And to do that, we have to work with the truth even when it's uncomfortable. So come back next week when we wrap up the Flora Four between rumors and reality, right here on Crime to Burn.
And electrolyte water tastes just like the devil's.
Look, I'm having a hard time getting my potassium. Rachel said that the thing that she's hoping that we do for the Patreon is just give her like a 3-hour-long thing of outtakes. I was like, we've talked about doing that.
Well, their vote is really heavy right now.
Yeah.
Shake it, baby. Shake the devil's dong.
I can feel my cells absorbing potassium.
What's that feel like? Is it itchy? Well, I'm completely unprepared.
Me too.
No.
But I leaned. The dog has requested admittance.
Can you hear the music from my head parts? There's no way I can focus on any of this if I'm just listening to it.
I know, we talked about it before. Maybe one day I'll do it with like interpretive dance so you can focus. One time I got a form at the hospital when I was having a medical procedure, and they asked on the form like how I learned best, like in case they had to show me how to take care of my post-surgery wounds or whatever. And I wrote interpretive dance.
And now they have only multiple choice.
If you don't see interpretive dance as an option on your medical forms, it's my fault.
Never jump in unlubed.
It looks like I'm loose. How can you tell from there? Oh, Sally and your seashells in the seashore.
Blech. I couldn't even take it once.
Shake it out.
Mm-hmm. They got those nice battery ones now that flicker. They look like real candles.
That finger motion you did was sexy.
Oh, yeah. Because as you knock it over while you're making love, it won't burn the room down.
Because that puts a damper on the mood.
Yeah. Good luck trying to get your fire hose to work right then. It's not going to...
How many random fires have you had start in our room?
That I had to pee out?
Yeah.
0.
Okay. I don't think I've ever peed out a fire.
Well, the thing is, I have different equipment than you. I'm not sure if...
Well, they make little cups for women that have like a little spout, so you can stand up to pee.
They do?
Yeah. I mean, nobody wants to sit on a porta potty seat. Yuck. I have had a fear of porta potties flipping over since I was a little kid.
Have you witnessed some unstable porta john?
I had to go we were fishing because we used to go fishing like every weekend because my parents would catch as much fish as they could because we were broke, and that was how we had a garden and we went fishing. We would fish overnight, like on Friday night or Saturday night, and there was a porta potty there because we were on base. near the pier on base. Yeah, and one time I had to go to the bathroom so bad, and the porta potty had apparently blown over in a really, really bad storm, and so one of the other fishermen there was like, oh, I'll flip it up for you. Didn't occur to me that the inside of the porta potty was going to be destroyed.
Ew.
So I opened the door, saw that mess, and I ran back crying to my parents, because I was only probably 4 maybe when this happened.
Oh, this is some early trauma.
Yeah, and then so my dad had to take me into the tall reeds there and show me how to squat down and pee in the grass, and I felt like everyone was going to see my butt, and I was crying. It was very traumatic.
Oh dear.
I just wanted to go home. I was overfishing at that point.
This might be why you don't like camping. I
And then
don't
we go
think
home.
that's camping.
That's not. It's fishing.
That's sleeping while your parents are fishing. Have you ever even been camping?
Well, it depends on what your definition of camping is. We could park really close to the place where we were camping, and it was with the fire department, so we brought a couch. And then I've been camping at Point Lookout State Park.
Were you ever haunted?
No, but that was the whole reason we went, was because it was reportedly haunted, and so we went there to see what would happen, but either we just got too drunk that we didn't notice any haunting activity, or there just wasn't any while we were there.
You were the haunting.
Probably was the haunting. That was the trip where I was fishing. They had a little dock area near the campsite, and there's this little 10-year-old kid, and so my friends and I were fishing, and I got a bite almost immediately. I was so excited, and I pulled it up, and it was an eel, and my brain took a minute to register that that's an eel and not a snake, and I just threw the whole fishing pole in the water.
Oh no.
And so this little 10-year-old kid jumps in the water to get the fishing pole. I'm like, no, let it go, it's cheap. And he's like, no, I want the eel. Anyway, I think I just gave him the eel and the fishing pole because I didn't want to deal with it. My back just always hurts now.
Oh yeah, man. That's what I'm saying. The sleep surface is very important.
I'm going to be easy to find in the zombie apocalypse because I'm going to be hiking around with a mattress on my back.
This is my breakfast. Hear the snap, crackle, pop.
Yep.
Yeah.
So far, we've covered the romance, the family. So far, we've covered the romance.
We covered the romance in the family, didn't we?
And the romance in the family.
You know, that sounds really arsony, right? But
Ching.
Oh, right. We got a button for that.
We need a kazoo. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate that. I know it was.
You are a cruel taskmaster.
Or we can get a professional kazoo, which I didn't know was a thing.
You don't want an amateur kazoo in here. I'm not a kazoo expert yet. I want one made out of camel bone or something cool.
Camel bone. You want to wrap your lips around a camel bone? It's a backpacking kazoo.
Who hasn't wanted to go and scare the shit out of nature with a kazoo?
And we've got a black one. This is metal with adjustable tone for guitar, ukulele, violin, piano.
Why do you need a kazoo for those things?
I don't know.
I'm not sure if that's really an accessory for those instruments.
Yeah, look, it looks like the microphone goes right in the hole.
That's cool.
You can stick it right in your hole.
Kazoo mic. Nothing gets me there like the sound of a kazoo. Well, who doesn't like a kazoo?
Your birthday's in a few days. Do you want me to buy you the kazoo as part of your birthday?
What other colors do they have? Now I'm torn because I like the gold, but I thought if I'm going to put some in my mouth, it probably ought to be black.
Well, place your order. All right, your kazoo will be on its way shortly. I feel like my Amazon algorithm just got real weird.
The High Council of Steve has become aware of an unholy deletion. The Cracker Barrel logo has been altered, sparking outrage across the interwebs. All Cult of Steve members are hereby summoned to the Patreon to receive the official ruling of the High Council on the continued snack-worthiness of the Cracker Barrel. Thing went dark. How do you fix that? Oh, there we go. You touched this part. Ooh, I touched it.
Oops.
It's getting knocked around a little bit.
Is it dangerous to be a microphone in this house?
Or a MacBook.
Or my butt. My butt's sore.
It's dangerous to be your butt because I'm a butt predator in this. Attention, cult members. It has come to our attention that an angler has attempted to dial up Poseidon using an old crank phone. All members are ordered to report to the Cult of Steve Patreon for the official ruling on this so-called fishing. In conclusion, I remain confused but hopeful.
Crime to Burn is a production of Crime to Burn, LLC, where we light fires in your brain and not your buildings. All rights reserved. Still spiritually parched after this episode? It's okay, Steve believes in cross-pollination. Here's a trailer for a show we think deserves to infiltrate your ear holes, in a good way. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review before you go. Steve is watching.
On the morning of July 31st, 2018,